Welcome back to the Shadows. I'm Mr. Shadows, and this is Mr. Shadows Stories, where the darkness isn't just something you see, it's something that watches you back. Tonight, we're diving into the world of those who guard the night, the brave souls who walk empty corridors while the rest of us sleep safely in our beds. But what happens when the protector becomes the prey? What do you do when the thing you're supposed to be guarding against isn't human? These are 4 true stories from security guards who experienced something so terrifying, so fundamentally wrong, that they walked away from their jobs immediately. Some in the middle of their shift, leaving their posts abandoned, their badges behind, and their questions forever unanswered. So, turn off your lights, put on your headphones, and whatever you do, don't watch this alone. Because after tonight, you'll never look at an empty building the same way again. Let's descend into the darkness. Story 1. The Abandoned Hospital. Marcus's story. Marcus had been working security for 8 years when he took the night shift position at St. Catherine's Hospital, a massive medical complex that had been abandoned for nearly 30 decades. The building was scheduled for demolition, but until then, someone needed to make sure vandals and copper thieves stayed out. The pay was exceptional, 3 times his normal rate for a single guard to patrol 6 floors of decaying hallways. The first few nights were uneventful, almost boring. Marcus would make his rounds with his flashlight, checking doors, looking for signs of forced entry. The building was exactly what you'd expect: peeling paint, outdated equipment left to rust, that peculiar smell of mildew and forgotten time. But on his 4th night, something changed. It was 2:47 a.m. when Marcus heard it, the distinct sound of a child crying from the 3rd floor. He stopped mid-step in the 2nd floor corridor, his flashlight beam frozen on the wall ahead. The sound was faint but unmistakable, echoing through the air vents and empty rooms. Now, Marcus was a rational man. He knew that old buildings made sounds: pipes settling, wind through broken windows, animals that had made their homes in the walls. But this was different. This was rhythmic, human, the heartbroken sobbing of a child in distress. Every instinct told him to call the police, to wait for backup. But what if there really was a child in there? What if some kid had wandered in during the day and gotten lost? Marcus couldn't live with himself if he didn't check. He climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor, each step creaking under his weight. The crying grew louder as he approached the pediatric wing. His flashlight beam swept across abandoned gurneys and wheelchairs, their shadows dancing on the walls like twisted figures. The crying was coming from room 304. Marcus approached the door slowly. His hand trembled slightly as he reached for the handle. The crying stopped the moment his fingers touched the cold metal. Complete silence. He pushed the door open. The room was empty, just a rusty bed frame, a broken chair, and walls covered in that awful floral wallpaper that had once been meant to comfort sick children. But there was something else, something that made Marcus's blood run cold. On the wall, written in what looked like fresh marker, were the words, "Help me, I'm still here." The handwriting was childlike, uneven, desperate. Marcus backed out of the room, his heart hammering. That's when he heard the footsteps, small, quick footsteps running down the hallway behind him. He spun around, his flashlight cutting through the darkness. Nothing. But the footsteps continued, moving away from him, heading toward the old operating theater at the end of the hall. And then he heard it again, the crying, but this time it wasn't one child, it was dozens of them, all crying in unison, their voices overlapping in a horrifying chorus of despair. Marcus ran. He didn't care about protocol, didn't care about his 3 times normal pay. He sprinted down those stairs, burst through the main entrance, and didn't stop running until he reached his car. His hands shook so badly he could barely get his keys in the ignition. As he drove away, he looked in his rearview mirror one last time. In the 3rd floor window of room 304, illuminated by moonlight, he saw the silhouette of a small child pressing their hands against the glass. Marcus never went back. He didn't even call to quit formally. 3 days later, he received his final paycheck in the mail, along with a note from the building's owner. The other guards didn't last this long. At least you made it 4 nights. The other guards. Marcus had never been told he was replacing anyone. 2 months later, St. Catherine's Hospital was demolished. During the demolition, workers discovered something that made local news: a sealed room in the basement containing medical records from illegal experiments performed on children in the 1950s. 23 children had died in that hospital under suspicious circumstances, their deaths covered up, their bodies never claimed. Room 304 had been the recovery room where most of them had spent their final days.
Story 2. The Office Building. Sarah's story. Sarah thought she had the perfect job. Night security at a downtown corporate office building meant she could study for her nursing degree while getting paid to basically sit at a desk. The building was modern, clean, and climate-controlled, a far cry from the sketchy warehouses and construction sites other security guards had to patrol. The routine was simple: arrive at 11 p.m., make rounds every hour, monitor the cameras, and leave at 7 a.m. 20 floors of offices, mostly finance and tech companies, all emptied by 6 p.m. every evening. For 3 months, it was exactly as advertised: easy, boring, safe. Then came the night of December 14th. Sarah was on her midnight rounds, walking the 17th floor, when she noticed something odd. One of the offices, a corner suite for a marketing firm, had its lights on. That wasn't supposed to happen. The building had motion sensor lights that shut off automatically 30 minutes after detecting no movement. She approached the glass door and peered inside. The office was empty, but the lights were on, and more strangely, one of the computers was active. She could see the screen glowing, displaying what looked like security camera footage. She used her master key to enter. As she got closer to the desk, she realized the footage on the screen wasn't from the building's official security system. It was from a different camera, somewhere she didn't recognize. Then her blood turned to ice. The footage showed her, right now, walking into this very office, but the camera angle was from behind her, from somewhere in the room she had just entered. She spun around. There was no camera there, just an empty wall and filing cabinets. Sarah looked back at the screen. In the footage, she was now turning around, exactly as she had just done, but there was something else in the video. Something standing in the corner of the room behind her. Something tall and impossibly thin, with limbs that bent at wrong angles. In the real room, looking with her own eyes, there was nothing in that corner, but on the screen it was moving closer to her.
Sarah's training kicked in. She backed toward the door, keeping her eyes on the corner where the thing should be, even though she couldn't see it. On the computer screen, the figure was now reaching out toward her frozen image. That's when the computer screen went black and the door to the office slammed shut. Sarah grabbed the handle and yanked, but it wouldn't budge. The automatic lock had engaged, something that should have been impossible with her security override key. She was trapped. The lights began to flicker. In the strobing darkness, Sarah saw something that would haunt her forever. In the moments of blackness between flickers, she could see it, the tall, thin figure from the video, standing exactly where it had been on the screen, its two long arms now hanging at its sides, its head tilted at an angle that no human neck could achieve. But only in the darkness. When the lights came back on, even for a split second, it vanished. Sarah did the only thing she could think of. She grabbed the desk chair and hurled it through the glass door. The safety glass shattered into 1,000 pieces, and she dove through, feeling the glass tear at her uniform. She ran to the elevator and hammered the button. Behind her, she could hear something moving in that office, hear the crunch of glass under footsteps that came too quickly, with too many impacts, as if the thing had more than 2 legs. The elevator doors opened, a miracle, and Sarah threw herself inside. As the doors began to close, she saw it emerge from the office. In the fluorescent light of the hallway, it looked almost normal, like a person in a suit, but its movements were wrong, jerky, like a video with frames missing. It ran toward the elevator. The doors closed just as it reached them. Sarah heard a sound like fingernails on metal as the thing scraped at the elevator doors, following her down, floor by floor, as she descended. When she reached the lobby, Sarah grabbed her personal belongings and walked out. She didn't write a report. She didn't tell anyone what happened. She simply left her badge on the desk and never came back. The building's management called her the next morning, threatening legal action for abandonment of duty and property damage. Sarah told them to review the security footage on the 17th floor at midnight. They called back 2 hours later. Their tone had completely changed. They asked her to please not discuss what happened with anyone. They offered her 6 months severance. They asked her to sign an NDA. Sarah signed. She took the money, but she never asked what they saw on that footage because she already knew, and she didn't want to hear them confirm it. 3 weeks later, the marketing firm on the 17th floor moved out unexpectedly. The corner office has remained vacant ever since. The building's management removed the door and welded a metal plate over the entrance. If you go to that building today, you can still see the sealed office behind the glass walls. And if you look carefully at the right time of night, you might see a computer screen glowing in the darkness, displaying footage of something that shouldn't exist.
Story 3. The Shopping Mall. David's story. David had worked security at Riverside Mall for 6 months when he was promoted to overnight supervisor. The promotion came with a significant pay raise and a simple responsibility: manage the 3-person team that secured the massive shopping complex from midnight to 6 a.m. The mall was your standard suburban shopping center. 3 floors, over 200 stores, multiple anchor department stores, and a food court that smelled like old grease and broken dreams. During the day, it was packed with shoppers. At night, it belonged to David and his team. The first week as a supervisor went smoothly. David and his 2 guards, Tom and Jennifer, would split up, each taking a floor, making hourly rounds, checking that all the stores were locked and secured. But on his 8th night as supervisor, David noticed something strange. At 2:15 a.m., during his second-floor rounds, he saw someone walking in the food court. A woman in a blue dress moving between the tables, appearing to look for something. This wasn't uncommon. Homeless people occasionally snuck in before closing and hid until the mall was empty. David approached her, ready to give his standard, polite but firm speech about trespassing. "Excuse me, ma'am, the mall is closed. I'm gonna have to ask you to—" She turned around. David's words died in his throat. The woman's face was wrong. Her features were there, eyes, nose, mouth, but they were positioned just slightly off, like a portrait painted by someone who had never actually seen a human face. And her eyes, they didn't blink. They just stared, unmoving, reflecting the dim security lights like an animal's eyes in headlights. "I'm looking for my daughter," she said, her voice flat, emotionless. "Have you seen my daughter?" "Ma'am, there's no one here but security. I need you to come with me to—" She interrupted, still not blinking. "She's wearing a red coat. She's 7 years old. Have you seen her?" David reached for his radio to call Tom and Jennifer for backup, but the woman moved with impossible speed. One moment she was 15 feet away, the next she was inches from his face. "Have you seen her?" she screamed, her mouth opening far wider than should have been possible, revealing row after row of teeth that went back into darkness. David stumbled backward and fell. When he looked up, she was gone. He scrambled to his feet, heart racing, and grabbed his radio. "Tom, Jennifer, we have an intruder. Second floor, food court. Converge on my location now." Static. "Tom? Jennifer? Respond!" More static. Then a voice, Jennifer's voice, but distorted, stretched out like a recording played at the wrong speed. "David, she's looking for her daughter." "Jennifer? What's wrong? Where are you?" A different voice came through, Tom's this time, equally distorted. "We found her. She was hiding in the walls." David ran toward the escalator to get to the first floor where Tom's last known position was. As he descended, he saw them, Tom and Jennifer, standing together near the main entrance, motionless, staring up at him. But something was wrong with the way they stood. Their bodies were too stiff, their heads tilted at identical angles. "Tom? Jennifer?" David called out. They spoke in perfect unison, their voices overlapping. "She found her daughter. They're together now. They want you to join the family." Then they smiled, wide, impossible smiles that split their faces nearly in half. David didn't go down to the first floor. Instead, he turned and ran for the employee exit on the second floor. Behind him, he could hear footsteps, lots of footsteps, more than 2 people, running up the frozen escalator after him. He burst through the emergency exit, setting off alarms that shrieked into the night. He didn't stop running until he reached his car. As he fumbled with his keys, he looked back at the mall. In the windows, he could see figures, dozens of them, all standing motionless, all watching him leave. Tom and Jennifer were in front, still smiling those horrible smiles. And behind them all, he could see the woman in the blue dress holding the hand of a small girl in a red coat. David drove straight to the police station and told them everything. They went to the mall with him just before dawn. They found Tom and Jennifer unconscious in the security office with no memory of anything after starting their shift. The mall security footage for that night was corrupted. Every camera showed nothing but static from midnight to 4 a.m. The mall's management dismissed David's story as a mental health episode brought on by stress. They offered him paid leave and counseling. David quit that morning. He moved to a different state within the week. But here's the thing that keeps him up at night. Before he left town, he did some research. He found old newspaper articles about Riverside Mall. In 1987,
Before the mall was built, the land was the site of a small residential neighborhood. A woman named Catherine Mills and her 7-year-old daughter disappeared from their home without a trace. Their bodies were never found. The food court was built exactly where their house had stood, and Catherine Mills was last seen in a blue dress. Her daughter was wearing a red coat.
Story 4. The Warehouse. James's story. James had worked every kind of security job imaginable. Retail, corporate, residential. But the warehouse gig was supposed to be his last before retirement. Just 6 more months of overnight shifts at a massive distribution center, and he'd have enough saved to quit for good. The warehouse was enormous. Over 300,000 square feet of concrete floors, metal shelving units that stretched 3 stories high, and endless rows of pallets filled with goods heading to stores across the country. During the day, the place buzzed with activity. Forklifts, workers, managers shouting orders. At night, it was a cathedral of silence and shadows. James's job was simple. Start at the main entrance, walk the perimeter, check all the doors and loading docks, then make a pass through the interior aisles. The whole circuit took about 90 minutes. Then he'd sit in the security booth, monitor the cameras, and do it all again. For 5 months, it was routine, boring even. Then came the night everything changed, his second-to-last shift before retirement. James was making his 1 a.m. rounds when he noticed something unusual. In aisle 47, there was a pallet that he didn't remember seeing before. It was sitting in the middle of the walkway, poorly wrapped in black plastic with no shipping label or barcode. That was strange. The warehouse operated on strict protocols. Every item was cataloged, labeled, and placed in designated positions. Nothing was ever just left in the middle of an aisle. James approached the pallet cautiously. As he got closer, he noticed something that made his skin crawl. The plastic wrapping was moving, pulsing slightly, as if something inside was breathing. He reached for his radio to call the day shift supervisor, even though it was the middle of the night. But before he could press the button, he heard something that froze him in place. A voice coming from inside the pallet. "Help me." It was barely a whisper, muffled by the plastic, but unmistakable. James's mind raced. Could someone have been accidentally sealed in a shipment? It seemed impossible, but what other explanation was there? He pulled out his box cutter and carefully began slicing through the plastic wrap. The voice came again, more urgently. "Help me, please." He peeled back the layers of plastic and immediately wished he hadn't. Inside wasn't a person. He couldn't even describe it properly. It looked like a person-shaped thing, made of other things, boxes, packing materials, broken merchandise, all somehow fused together into a grotesque approximation of human form. And it was moving. The thing's head, a crushed cardboard box with a shipping label where a face should be, turned toward him. The voice came again, but this time James could see it wasn't coming from the thing itself. It was coming from somewhere deeper in the warehouse, echoing between the shelves. "Thank you for freeing me." The pallet creature began to unfold itself, pieces of it falling away and scattering across the floor.
Within seconds, it had collapsed into nothing but ordinary warehouse debris, but the voice continued, now coming from multiple directions. "Thank you, thank you, thank you." James ran. He didn't care about protocol or procedure or doing his job properly. He ran towards the exit, his flashlight beam bouncing wildly off the endless rows of shelves. Then he heard them, footsteps all around him, keeping pace. He couldn't see anyone, but he could hear them clearly. Dozens of feet hitting the concrete, surrounding him, herding him. He changed direction, cutting down aisle 23 towards a different exit. The footsteps followed, staying just out of sight behind the shelving units. Then the lights went out. All of them. The overhead fluorescents, the emergency lights, and even his flashlight died, despite having fresh batteries. In the complete darkness, James could hear them more clearly now. The footsteps had stopped. Instead, there was breathing, heavy, labored breathing, coming from everywhere at once, as if the warehouse itself had lungs. James felt his way along the shelves, moving by touch alone. His hands encountered the familiar texture of cardboard boxes, plastic wrap, and metal shelving. Then his hand touched something else, something warm, something that felt like skin. It grabbed his wrist. James screamed and yanked his hand away. He ran blindly through the darkness, bouncing off shelves, tripping over pallets, driven by pure terror. He saw light ahead, the exit sign glowing red in the darkness. He sprinted towards it, burst through the door, and collapsed in the parking lot under the security lights. When he looked back at the warehouse, all the lights were on inside, illuminating the space as if nothing had happened. James sat there for 3 hours until the morning shift arrived. He told them he'd had a medical emergency and needed to leave. He didn't mention what happened. He didn't go back inside. He forfeited his last night's pay. He didn't care about the money anymore. 2 weeks later, James received a package at his home. Inside was his security badge, which he'd left at the warehouse, along with a note written on a piece of cardboard torn from a shipping box. "You were supposed to work one more night. We had a going away party planned for you. We'll miss you. Come back and visit sometime." The handwriting was shaky, uneven, like someone had written it while trembling. James moved 3 states away. He never worked security again. He checks every package that arrives at his home now, looking for signs that it might be from that warehouse. So far, they've all been normal. So far. 4 security guards, 4 nights they'll never forget, 4 jobs they walked away from without looking back. Some people say these stories are just overactive imaginations, stress-induced hallucinations, or the mind playing tricks in the lonely hours of the night. But I ask you this: why did they all quit? Why did they walk away from paychecks they desperately needed? Why did they choose to be unemployed rather than spend one more night in those places? Because some things are real. Some things do exist in those empty spaces, waiting in the dark, watching from corners we can't see. The next time you're in a building after hours, remember, security guards are there to protect the property from intruders, but who protects the guards from what's already inside? I'm Mr. Shadows, and this has been another journey into the darkness. If you survived this episode, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because the shadows have many more stories to tell. And believe me, what you heard tonight, that's just the beginning. Share your own experiences in the comments below. Have you ever worked a night shift where something didn't feel right? Have you ever been the last person in a building and felt like you weren't alone? Tell me your stories. I'm always listening. Until next time, stay out of the dark, or if you can't, at least keep your flashlight close. This is Mr. Shadows, signing off.